Uh, oh, hi. Hey, it's me again. Hey, little crisis going on down here. My last video was a reaction to an 8-minute long video that I somehow managed to stretch out for 24 minutes. And today's video is 32 minutes. What am I gonna do?
I am Noxiddar!
Hey everyone, how's it going? Noxiddar here, and welcome to our last reaction video on One Piece before I sit down to list my dreams out and what I want to get out of One Piece, get out of this series, and get out of life in general. And then we set sail on the grand reaction adventure. Before we get started, I did want to say a thing. You might have noticed if you watched the other reaction videos that I've been kind of playing around with the different color temperatures, and that's because I couldn't figure out how from one video to the next I seemed to look different. And it wasn't until the last reaction video that I figured it out. You see, when I put my hand up to do a high five, I realized, oh, that's just my dumb ginger self out in the sun. So that's why I look like a lightly cooked strip of bacon. Now that we got that important business out of the way, go ahead and go to today's video. So here we have today's video, which is titled Why You Should Read One Piece. This is another video by Super Eyepatch Wolf, and I've gone ahead and I've left a like. You know my spiel, I give it every time because it really is that important. If you are liking this video, please leave a like, but more importantly, please go to the original video that I will leave linked down in the description and show your support for them as well, because really it is because of them and because of suggestions from the community like you that there's even something to react to and the reason that you're here in the first place. We have 32 minutes of video. To me, this is going to be kind of like a victory lap because I already know that I'm going to read and watch One Piece. So I'm curious to see what he says, and I will probably try to keep my general storytelling down to a minimum so that we don't end up with an hour and a half or 2 hours of video. Please come back to this and mock me horrendously in the comments if it does happen that we have told a whole video essay by the end of this. I hope not.
If I were to try and explain the appeal of long-running
Goku
shonen storytelling...
Oh my gosh, we're starting already. Vegeta is my favorite character
it would be that
in Dragon Ball Z.
these are stories designed to go on for a very long time, and so we inevitably spend a much greater amount of time getting to know their worlds and characters, over the course of which the kind of relation we form with them inherently changes. As rather than being something consumed and then moved on from, these are series that sink into our daily routine and often become a constant, gentle, comforting background noise in the days that make up our lives. And this has been true for me for the vast majority of my life. There's rarely a time I haven't slowly working my way through one of these long-running series, the best of which have become some of my favorite stories I've ever experienced.
Wow, hearing him say that made me realize that there was a part of my life where anime was such a huge part, and then just one day just never came back to it. And so the nostalgia of just opening strong with Dragon Ball Z and seeing Bleach and others, it made me feel something. Wow.
But it's also a style of storytelling that seems inherently detrimental to itself. Even the very best in the industry have succumbed to the pressure of producing a long-running weekly manga.
Okay, I see what they mean now.
The fatigue of which has caused even the most monstrously talented authors to either drastically reduce their release schedule or suffer a long-term drop in quality.
I feel like that's especially true if you're an author who writes by the seat of your pants, because you are kind of along the journey with the audience, and if you don't even know where you're going, eventually you might find yourself just stuck, washed ashore, as it were. And I wonder how many manga and by extension anime have kind of worked themselves into that position where it's they can't give up, but yet they've got nowhere to go. I'm happy to see that that is not the fate of One Piece. And certainly one of the things that I'm looking forward to most is seeing the entire story, but also just seeing how a mind gets to thousands of, chapters of storytelling. What does that do to your mind? Where does your imagination go? I'm so excited for that aspect of it.
And yet, there is one artist who, despite the intense lifestyle of being a weekly mangaka, still creates his story with the same energy and vigor as he did 2 decades ago, with a
That's
series
crazy
that's
to
still
me.
as loved by its fans now as it was at the heights of its popularity. That artist is Eiichiro Oda, and that story is One Piece.
Here we go.
The most notable thing I could say about One Piece in the modern day is that it's still good, and sailing the Grand Blue with the Straw Hats is still a blast, with many fans attesting that the current arc is one of the best in the series' history.
And that's so strange to me, because when I think of like modern Hollywood franchises, thing that you always hear is, oh, nothing's better than the original. The sequel will never live up to the original. And yet you have a continuous story going on, and where people are saying that where they are is the best they've ever been. And that to me gets me excited to jump in and see like how, my Western brain can't wrap itself around this idea.
But the question is how? How does a series
stay
interesting and relevant after
That's what I want to know.
years? And what is it that makes its fans still so loyal to it? And if you've never read One Piece, what could possibly make the massive commitment of it worthwhile?
Oh, this is going to be a great video. I need to know this.
The day has finally
I don't.
come
I know for
to
myself.
Answer those questions. So let's lower the sails, set out towards the horizon, and talk about why you should watch/read One Piece. The major advantage of having a long-running series is that it allows the author to communicate a much greater degree of information to the reader. And while this can often be to a series' detriment, with many artists forced to prioritize longevity over quality, in the right hands it can be used to build worlds of immense breadth and scale, ones with stories and characters that would be completely impossible in a shorter context. And this is the primary strength of Eiichiro Oda as a writer.
I heard that Eiichiro Oda had planned for like 5 years, right? Like, oh, this will be like a 5-6 year journey on the initial onset of One Piece. And now here we are, like 25 years and looking beyond. I wonder where that point was, where he knew, I have no idea how long it will take. I just know that there are places and things that I want to see and experience. The ambition is just unimaginable to me, and the kinds of experiences to pull from to write. And it's like Oda is simulating a small universe. Maybe in this simulation, the real world is One Piece. When you put it into that perspective, that he's not just creating a world, but he's quite literally simulating a universe within the pages of the manga presented to us, also through the medium of anime and now live action. I think I am starting to understand why he is referred to as Goda, with a capital G.
His ability to create and sustain a long-running narrative, and one of the primary ways he does this is by grounding his series in a tangible, believable world.
Oh,
While
wow.
One Piece is at its heart the story of the Straw
That's the
Hat
first time I
Pirates
saw
and
the
their quest
world
for
map.
treasure One Piece. It's the detours and locations along the way that make up the primary bulk of One Piece's story. Each new location in the journey of the Straw Hats has its own unique identity, with its own customs, cultures, economy, and inhabitants.
Oh, that's so cool.
A huge part of the appeal of sailing the Grand Blue with the Straw Hats is uncovering these locations and discovering the mechanics of how they work. Oda has a way of giving even the most visually outlandish locations a tangible feeling of place and structure. Take for example Whole Cake Island from the most recent arc. It's a magical land where every inanimate object is alive and the buildings are constructed from confectionery.
Oh no, I think I went there in Diablo 3. We won't talk about how that turned out. This is so imaginative though. You are just constantly broadsided, let's use nautical terms here, broadsided by color and style and shape. It's just, I actually don't know how to describe how it makes me feel. And that is both equally frustrating and at the same time magical. And maybe that's just the best way to describe what's going on. It's magical, right? Just good old-fashioned dark magic. Well, light magic in this case. Everything's bright and colorful.
And at first, it seems like a kind of Disney-esque paradise, until we find out later how the island became like this. Whole Cake Island is under the control of Big Mom, a massive hulking woman with the power to steal life directly from people and transfer it into everyday objects. A power she's used to transform the island into her own distorted wonderland, where no one can leave and people must sacrifice a segment of their lifespan as tax.
That is wild. That's messed up. But at the same time, as someone who is, and currently does, have some fairly unhealthy eating habits, that also resonates, maybe not in the way that he described, but you do. When you don't take care of yourself, you pay a portion of your life in tax. That's scary. Can't wait.
But perhaps even more impressive is the detail that's gone into its creation. If you go to the One Piece wiki...
I won't look. It might be spoilers.
If you want to know what the weather is like on Whole Cake Island...
I would have just assumed it's a little frosty with, you know, some icing. You know. Completely normal.
This is just one of the many examples of the extremely fleshed out developed locations that make up One Piece's world. Zou is a massive forest filled with beast people located on the back of a giant elephant, run by a fierce warrior dog during the day and an equally fierce warrior cat during the night.
You know, I'm realizing now that I'm so thankful that I did watch the last video first, because remember what I said? I said, oh, this video seems like it's more for you to feel. And I was looking for a video to kind of help me think. And so now that I've, you know, had the feeling of seeing these majestic locations, to actually kind of see them broke down a little bit, piece by piece, I think actually helps me understand, you know, the feelings that I was feeling. I do want to say I will probably be cutting large portions of this because, again, it's really hard for me to react to things that I myself haven't gone through or experienced. So I very much want these reactions to be, believe it or not, where I react. So if you have seen this video before and you notice that just large sections are missing, it's no offense to the creator. This is a magnificently made video. It really just does come down to, you know, I want to talk about things that I'm reacting to and not just, or have you sit through a repeat watch and then it's just me glazed over. Oh, that would work for Whole Cake Island. We're going to get back to the video, but I have no idea what's going to show up after I get through the editing. I just want you to be aware it might not be the whole video as presented.
Dressrosa is a giant city with a massive gladiatorial arena inhabited by bizarre toy people, which are all under the heel of a vicious false king. Thriller Bark is a giant haunted ghost ship that literally eats other ships.
Is that... Hold on, was that like a Babes in Toyland kind of inspiration? I wonder. Was Keanu Reeves in Babes in Toyland? Oh my gosh, he was. Sorry, that has nothing to do with the video. I was just curious.
no character in One Piece is ever constructed in isolation, but rather each individual one has their own allegiances, political geography, history, and driving motivators, many of whom have relationships and backstories entirely isolated from our heroes, like how 100 Beast Kaido and Gecko Moria have beef with each other due to the fact that Kaido was the one who killed Moria's entire crew, forcing him to create the undead army the Straw Hats face off.
Again, don't worry about any potential spoilers. I don't even know who these people are, and I'm definitely going to forget that they did what they he said he did. That is probably the luxury of having over 1,000 episodes, is that, you know, there's time for ideas to breathe and be forgotten.
I've lost entire afternoons trawling through the One Piece wiki, going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, trying to understand how all these characters fit together to create the giant, ever-evolving world that is One Piece. And the fact that Oda has had...
That just goes back to my earlier assessment that Oda is not just crafting a world, but he is quite literally simulating a universe. That's... I feel like that has to be true now. If I get nothing else from this video, I really feel like that is the takeaway. We are watching one man simulate a universe right off of the page.
Hundreds of chapters to develop the world of One Piece like this means that he's been able to evolve it into a landscape that begs to be dissected and studied. And if you need proof of this, just look at the communities that have built up around its analyzation and discussion, such as the extremely popular One Piece podcast, currently on its 473rd episode, which discusses in extreme detail each new chapter.
Thumbnails, good job.
Episodes that regularly last over 2 hours, meaning that even entirely separate from the central narrative of One Piece's story, it's still an utterly fascinating landscape to explore. That isn't to say, however, that the story that takes place in One Piece's world isn't vital to its success. It absolutely is.
Yeah, that seems like the truest of truths. Go ahead, explain.
Perhaps just as important as the story Oda tells is the unique way he tells it. Oda is a master in what we're going to refer to as short-term and long-term storytelling. And to really understand why One Piece has endured over the years like it has, we need to understand his work from these two distinct perspectives. Short-term storytelling accounts for the moment-to-moment experience of consuming a piece of narrative, how good a job an author has done in laying out their work that makes it pleasurable to consume. And while I can think of a few manga authors I would consider technically stronger illustrators than Oda, I can't think of any who have the same innate understanding of how to actually make reading a page of manga enjoyable. And even then, when I say there are technically stronger illustrators than Oda, that's not to take away from Oda's work as much as it is to highlight what's special about it.
The images that this creator is selected for sampling, I would say that the other artists that were showcased, I guess I could go back to it, these create very strong silhouettes, and so with that silhouette, I think it leaves a strong visual impression in your mind where maybe some of the details are fuzzy, but you can clearly keep that silhouette in mind. However, when I go to, you know, images like this, and then where's the other one? Not that. We go to an image like this, however, and I feel like there is movement. There is a kind of rhythm, and that inferred movement and action also makes the moments where he showcases more stronger emotions and emotive expressions in the characters, because you also have that with a flow of motion, I think creates a stronger overall imagery and movement and, dare I say, picture in your head. And I think maybe that is just, you know, without really having seen much of the manga, I would say that seems to be Oda's greatest strength, is creating a sense of movement and really bringing those emotions to life. Out of the sampling that's there from what was showcased to what was, you know, juxtaposed with One Piece, I would say the sense of movement and emotion is more tangible and less impressionist than what was shown in the other.
Stronger illustrators than Oda. That's not to take away from Oda's work as much as it is to highlight what's special about it. Rather than concentrating on intense rendering or meticulous anatomical correctness, Oda's work has a highly organic, expressive quality to it. He's a master at caricature and stylization, often accentuating the proportions and shapes of his characters to extremes for some of the most hilariously goofy but also strikingly unique designs in the industry. And yet he's also adept at depicting emotion through his drawings.
Okay, there we go. So, again, expressive, emotive, emotion. Notice what that word has in it too? Motion. I was right the whole time.
Namely by pushing the facial expressions of the different characters as far as they'll possibly go. Joy, malice, desperation, sadness. He knows exactly how to depict the human face.
And so the crazy thing is I want you to take a look at this. Because of the incredibly exaggerated emotion put on the face, you see, again, it gives a sense of motion to the emotion. I like that. I'm using this now. It's a thing. Zoro making his promise to never lose again. Some of this is because I have seen the anime, but him holding his hand over his head is such a striking image within this panel, in this pose, is that I can imagine the movement to bring him to that moment, to get that exaggeration. And whether that is the flowing of blood from the corner of his mouth, the tears freely flowing, the veins bulging, his hands, his fingers bent, his hair tousled, him laying down across, planks. Everything is indicative of the movement and the place that brought you to that point. This is what I would consider the strongest form of Oda's creations, is the way in which it just pulls you in. I'm so looking forward to the anime, but I can't tell you how excited I'm going to be able to analyze the manga. And I think we're going to have so much fun doing that. Holy cow. This is good. This is exciting. I'm so glad that I'm watching this video right now.
In order to give the reader the clearest possible conveyance, not only of what a character is feeling, but just how intensely they are feeling it. In short, Oda is adept at conveying information through his images. And this carries right through to every aspect of his manga writing, including the unique way he lays out pages.
I'm doing it again. I'm sorry. I'm stopping. But look at the just look at it. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Even the way his page is laid out, the asymmetrical nature of it is inferring movement in the action. Nothing feels like a static silhouette. We're not creating impressions. We are leaving depressions in the faces of our enemies. Because we hit him, or kicked him, slashed him, blew him away. Perfect! Stop! I just want you to take a moment to look at that. It's a very static one action moment across an entire page. Now, obviously, I don't think all of Death Note is like that. I think, again, that's a brilliant way to compare and contrast movement with Oda and strong impression with a lot of other anime authors. This is my general understanding that I'm going into, and I'm happy to be wrong, and I will discover that when the time comes. But for now, this is what I'm being presented with, and that's kind of how I'm seeing it. And I'm so excited to be in motion on an adventure. That's what I'm looking forward to, and that's what I think I'm seeing.
Series are content to let the dialogue do the lion's share of the storytelling, with the visuals merely serving as an identifier for who is speaking or to highlight character designs. But with Oda, his pages are dense with visual data. with a lot of the world building communicated through images alone. Take this page in the city of Zou, for example. At no point does anyone point out that the Beastmen use the fruit of the giant trees as their homes. That's information you only get by taking the time to explore the page for yourself.
He wouldn't even have had to have pointed that out, and I probably would have gathered that from looking at the image and looking at it long enough.
But Oda may be the only author I've ever come across with as solid a
Motion
grasp of this as Toriyama, and in some cases I'd say even exceeds him.
Oh my gosh, I feel so vindicated that I spent so much time talking about this and he's actually covering it. Whew, I wasn't just making this up and making it try to sound good. There is clearly and evidently truth to it.
Take this 1.5 page spread, for example. We start off on the right with the Mink Men getting angry at Zoro, then Zoro in return getting angry back, then Luffy responding to Zoro, this dog lady adding to Luffy's response, and then an entirely different conversation taking place on the other side of the room. That's 5 sequential events from a single unbroken panel, and this creates the illusion that as our eye travels from right to left here, time is actively moving with it, which makes it feel like this is an actual event unfolding before us.
Again, you can see a scene in your head and it creates such a strong, evocative picture that you can actually see the events happening and occurring, like when I was discussing the Zoro particular image. I want to see this before maybe he explains it. That's interesting with the panel break right there, but the continuous line of action following all the way to the bottom. Is that a person? Is that an orbital strike from a Chinese satellite? I don't know. But clearly you can tell. You can tell right from the top because your peripheral vision is sensing the imminent destruction that is awaiting at the bottom as your eye follows the line all the way down. You're picking up every single word. It's building in a very dramatic way, and I will say that just this frame sequence of frames over on the right side is fully kinetic, again inferring motion. This is cool. I really like analyzing this. Holy cow.
We get this panel of a silhouette standing on a massive precipice before lunging forward.
That is not where I thought he was going with this.
We turn the page or scroll down and we get this beautifully handled piece of
this is a person.
Starting at the top right of the page, we get these 3 panel breaks, which cause our eyes to linger for just a moment, creating the very slight sense of anticipation and distance, before following the trail of Kaido's fall down through the clouds and slamming into the ground in a massive eruption that's even bigger than the island he's landed on. There is any number of more generic ways that Oda could have depicted Kaido's fall, but doing it this way serves 2 distinct functions. For one, it's just an incredibly fun page to read.
Again, it was probably fun to draw as well. I do kind of want to be a little wary here because I don't want too much over-explained to me. Because this is such a striking image that I'm probably going to remember this one, sadly. However, I gotta say, this is what I'm referring back to when I said it was probably just fun to draw every day and come up with these just very dramatic ways to create motion and create movement in your story. And I have to wonder if that actually makes the animators' jobs so much easier for an anime like One Piece to adapt from the manga, because there is so much visual information in, like, so when we talk about, you know, in terms of acting and stage acting and like blocking out movements, showing the motivation of how you got from here to over here. I can't help but think that, like, anime artists sitting down to do Oda's work with One Piece have to just be so happy and so thrilled, because I don't think there's a lot of blanks to fill in, even though it is coming from a distinctly static image. But like I said, the way his strength is that he shows that his art style is so kinetic, and there's always movement. There is the line of action, And I love the way Super Eyepatch Wolf has broken down the process, and so that you can see the flow of action in several different instances that maybe I wouldn't have picked up immediately, but I at least like visually would have understood it. You know, the visual language is sometimes very different from the audio language that we're picking up and perceiving. And so when you have a talented artist that can cohesively deliver on both, and when I say audio, I also mean just like your inner voice picking up the text and how those playfully just work with each other. Again, going back, that push and pull. This has to be so much fun for the people that have read through all of these.
Really conveying with images alone the sense of velocity and impact of Kaido's massive body slamming into the earth. And second, this also serves as Kaido's intro.
That's starting to sound a little spoilery there, friend. Okay, what's our next section? The narrative. See, when I read something like narrative, I'm thinking like plot, and I don't know if it's a good idea to watch this. This is so brilliant. This is so good, but I do kind of want to dance on eggshells here. Plus, it's a long video, and I'm going to make it even longer in my reaction. Guaranteed. So I'm going to skip this section called character progression. Plot. Oh, let me see what these concluding thoughts are. These next three segments really feel like I might inadvertently get something that really shaped my experience, and I do want the experience to be as fresh as possible. I want to be able to experience a lot of the amazingness that you have all been able to kind of gleam over the years and have that fresh, raw emotional reaction to it, and not just like a nodding of the head like, oh yeah, I remember where so and so said that this was the most important thing that had a direct impact on their life. Now I see why it had a direct impact on their life, instead of, oh my gosh, this is insane, my life is forever changed. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Like I want to have that last one, but like not in a weird radio DJ voice. Okay, so here we go. Let's check out the conclusion, and we'll wrap up this video and my final thoughts. But absolutely wonderful, so good. Check out the original. Please show your support.
When I think of what I love about One Piece and what keeps me coming back, it isn't the eventual promise of finding out what One Piece is, or the conclusion to arcs that I know are most likely dozens of chapters away, but rather, it's just the opportunity to return to this world and spend more time with these characters. To see them fight and struggle and chase their dreams, and in turn, see how the world's many moving parts react to them. This is the kind of story that could only be told over years. One carefully built over hundreds and hundreds of chapters, where each corner of its world feels realized, and yet where each horizon still brims with potential. And if you're new to One Piece, this is the reason I think it's still a commitment so worth making. As it's a story to get lost in, one to grow up alongside, and one with worlds and characters that will stay with you for years to come. And this, friends, is the best reason I can think of why you should watch / read One Piece.
Good video. Perfect conclusion, perfect ending. Wow. And I only watched half of it.
I want to thank you for joining me today. Also, if for some insane reason you want to hear me talk even more about One Piece, you can do so in my video, The Appeal of One Piece, Where to Start. And if you enjoyed these videos, consider heading over to patreon.com/Super Eyepatch Wolf.
There you go. Show your support there too.
You can see your name listed with my beautiful Nakama right here. Or you can come find me on the Let's Fight a Boss video game podcast. And also, just want to give a shout out to my co-host Brian for his help with this video. As always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
Awesome video. Wow. Yeah, please show your support any way you can. It's thanks in part to the incredibly hard work that people putting together these videos have for, you know, me to react to. And, you know, I had a comment in one of the videos, and it was asking, you know, like, well, why did you cut up this, review, or not review, this reaction so much? And the truth is that I never want to take away from the original because so much work is put into it. I just want to react to have things to talk about and reasons to talk about them. That's really all my reaction videos are. I know other reactors will do things differently and they like to talk over videos a lot, but I like to take things in, let them soak for a little bit, and then wring them out like a sponge. That's me, like a sponge. I'm soft, squishy. And I think that's about it for me. The next video that I do before I start on this reaction journey is laying out what my dreams are. My dreams for life, my dreams for this journey going into One Piece. And it's going to be interesting. I think I'm going to script it because I have so many different thoughts and I don't want to miss anything, but I also don't want to ramble on unimportant things for too long. Because I want to take into consideration all these other videos that I've reacted to and the comments that you guys have gave along the way. This community is so wonderful, so welcoming. This anime, this manga is so welcoming. I'm at the welcome part of welcome aboard, and I'm just waiting to actually get on the ship and set sail. And so with that, that's all the time we have for today. This is Noxiddar, out.